Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co-hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
And I think the travel industry is going through such a huge shift, not just from a technology perspective, but also just a generational shift where owners and property managers are now younger. Guests are even younger and they have different expectations. And I think this is something we've talked a few times, Will, on Clubhouse and things like that. But if you can empower property managers to automate and personalize the predictable, they can focus on working on their business, not in their business.
For sure.
And when I hear property managers still dealing with, getting the keys to the owner, to the guests, or answering messages like Wi-Fi passwords and answering messages at 2 a.m. that are just so frustrating, there's something to be done so that they can focus on creating a memorable experience, or I think, if I'm not mistaken, as you say, creating a destination.
You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. Running a short-term rental business is challenging and time-consuming. Whether it's 10 units or 1,000 units, trying to keep up with the latest trends, technology, hardware, revenue management, guest support, and R&D, it's become almost impossible and increasingly more expensive for the everyday host. On top of that, all of this tedious work does not allow you to focus on what matters most, and that is your guest. Luckily, this will no longer be a problem. Introducing Journey's MOS, the newest and most advanced tech solution in hospitality. Journey's MOS provides you with a one-stop solution that will automate your entire operation and take care of all of your back office work, allowing you to fully focus on growing your business the way you want to. To learn more about MOS, visit Journey online at journey.com. That's Journey, JURNY.com. Francois, my man. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and I have the amazing startup founder, Francois of Enso Connect, on the podcast today. So I'm super excited to have you, my man, and it's so good to see you once again. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a long time coming now. I've had to join on this podcast for sure, and super excited.
No, seriously, I was like, man, how many months have we been like talking back and forth about like, hey, so we're almost there, we're almost podcast ready. It's been super good though to watch your journey, man. Like, just it's crazy because we don't really talk about Clubhouse on the podcast a lot, but there's been a few guests like yourself, Daniel from Wash B&B, and a few others that really have just kind of popped up out of nowhere from this platform called Clubhouse. And not that you guys popped out of nowhere, but you guys were just the most consistent guys in those rooms, like constantly like trying to figure out like, okay, how does our product serve the industry? How does our product get better? What does the industry really need? What are we building that's not needed, or what are we building that is needed that nobody knew that they did need? You know, like all this stuff. Super cool story and background. So I'm super excited to get to jump in with you. So I want to know, and I think you've told me before on a phone call, we were chatting it up. but let's start where did you begin? How did you even get into, because you're pretty young and like we, are probably, I would say the minority in our industry with how young we are as founders and creators and entrepreneurs in the space. But I would love to see, where did it all begin? What was the aha moment?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I like to start from the beginning because it helps you kind of make sense of where we're at now and how we got there.
Yeah.
But essentially, Enso Connect started off as a class project, and this was back in 2019, about 2 years ago. And we had to come up with a solution to an entrepreneurial problem. I was studying computer science, cognitive science, focusing computational linguistics. So definitely a bit of a nerd there, and had to come up with a solution to an entrepreneurial problem for like my last class of the semester, and I guess of my undergraduate degree. It had to be robotics focused, and I absolutely hate robotics. Like, I'm a pure SaaS kind of guy. So I went up to my prof and I said, can I do smart home devices instead? I mean, I have them all plugged into my apartment already. Maybe this can work.
Yeah.
And he reluctantly said yes, but he said, you're probably not going to win the $10,000 cash prize at the end of the class. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, $10,000 cash to win at the end of a course at a university? Like, okay, challenge accepted. And I think it was like within the first week of the class, we're trying to figure out what the problem statement is, which industry we're going to tackle and things like that. And my best friend calls me up, and he usually calls me up for three things: to go for food, to travel, or to go for food and travel. I mean, I've been on trips like 24 hours in Mexico because he's like, hey man, you should come meet me in Mexico. And I'll be like, yeah, okay, sure, let's do it. So really fun guy. And calls me up and he's like, Francois, you're trying to become Canadian, you're French, but you don't even know how to ski. So we're going to go to Mont Tremblant and you're going to learn how to ski. So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
We hop in a car Friday afternoon, book a place on Airbnb, instant book, super easy. We get a scheduled message right away saying the keys under the doormat. Here's how you stay, a couple instructions here and there.
Keys under the doormat.
Keys under the doormat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty safe approach, I guess. It's Canada, so people are nice here. I think there's
That's true. I forgot where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot to say I am based out of Toronto, Canada. So people are very used to saying sorry and just being very kind here. But yeah, we get to the Airbnb, keys frozen under the doormat, like 3 centimeters of thick ice. I don't know what that is in the non-metric format. But just a lot of ice under that floor mat. We finally pry the door open, pry the floor mat off the ground. We get into the unit. The heating system is per room, and we only figure that out at the end of the stay. So we're just sleeping in the living room, warming up by the fire, and then throughout the stay we're asking about ski passes and how to do this and where to get food. And it's like, we got there at like 11:30 p.m. So we're asking about how to get pizza, and there's a lot of snow. It's minus 20. Again, no idea what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's just very cold.
It's very cold. That's all we need to know.
Exactly. And then 5 days after checkout, I get a text message from the host saying we left one of the windows open in the kitchen. Kitchen pipes froze. We owe him $5,000, and he's sending us to small claims court. So that's how it got started. And initially, we built a very simple proof of concept. Literally bought a door at Home Depot, stuck a smart lock on it, and just showed that, owners and property managers can have access to certain data points that would allow a more seamless check-in process. And that was really just like a small proof of concept. Ended up winning the $10,000. And
Did
then
you have to split half of that $10,000 to pay off that small claims court?
Honestly, he never sent us to small claims court. I never heard of it ever again. I'm hoping that we become big enough that he sees our story and, well, hopefully it's not a lawsuit this time, but that he sees our story and is like, you know what? I need to use Enso Connect. And that's kind of part of the goal. And I will give it to him for free, just for the troubles, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, so you won the 10,000. So you proved your professor wrong.
Exactly. Well, I mean, to be fair, throughout the process, even though he was a bit reluctant or doubtful at first, then he saw us progress throughout the semester and was like, okay, there's something there.
Yeah.
And we really crafted something around access management, which was one of the critical pain points, like, just picking one tiny little vertical and just trying to solve this the best way possible.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we won the 10K. And then what happened was I'd just gotten into a Masters of Entrepreneurship at Cambridge in the UK. And the program was part-time. So what a lot of people would do is they'd actually take an idea and start a business. And so I figured, you know what? Why don't I just run with this? While all my friends are getting jobs at Google and software engineer, this and that, why don't I just do this for 2 years, see what happens, you know? And so we started off by building a PMS. That was our first mistake. And not so much because there's no value in a PMS, but because there's a lot out there. And if anything, they're extremely important, but it didn't make sense for us to add to more fragmentation and try to compete with the existing, Hostaway, Hostfully, Guesty, and great softwares that are out there.
Yeah.
So we started off by building this PMS with obviously a heavy focus on IoT. We had about 68 listings on our platform, just as, again, a proof of concept, testing things out, so on. And we raised a tiny bit of money for our pre-seed round. And within 7 days of getting our first check, Trump closes the borders. Mm-hmm. It's, part of my French, a shit show for the hospitality space. Yeah. I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but fine. Okay, good. Yeah. And we lose all the other investors who were interested in participating. We lose over half of our units, and we're essentially stuck. And this isn't going to go anywhere. So I went back to my family's place, spent 2-3 months banging my head against the wall, trying to figure out what was going on. Spent a lot of time during that time actually exploring the industry, really just talking to as many property managers, understanding what their pain points are. And to your point about Clubhouse, learning from the audience out there, just setting up scheduled, times and just figuring out what problems are you facing, what's going on in terms of this and that. And what we realized was, while the problem that we were solving was the same, the approach to solving that problem was completely different. And what I mean by that is, instead of positioning ourselves as a property management software, trying to build out the best guest experience, why don't we build out the best guest experience system that works with your property management software? And so that was kind of the pivotal moment to Enso Connect. And since then, we've scaled to just over 12,000 listings. Actually, I was just in France. I just got back on Sunday, and we just closed another 750 listings. So we're now at 12,800 listings on the platform. So it's been exciting, to say the least. 18 different countries, processed over 80,000 different guests in those different countries, and just learning a lot from our existing users so we can optimize the beta and then launch a very big product in the next couple of weeks or months, TBD.
TBD. Yeah, of course. Dude, that's incredible, man. And I have a couple questions just from your story, and I've been writing them down.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know, just because, one, we're young. So I'm going to bring up that point a couple of times, just because I think a lot of people our age definitely get that mindset of, okay, graduate high school, go to college, buy a house, get married, have kids, the dog, the promotion, all that stuff, right? What made you go, I'm going to take the risk. I'm just going to run with this. Like, why didn't you follow your peers after, when you were going to Cambridge, when you're like, you know what, I'm going to run with this for 2 years and see what happens? What was that mindset for you?
Listen, I've always taken risks. I think my family knows that quite well now. Is I was the trouble child who always took the risks, but you know what? Sometimes it pays out. And I have a huge passion for travel, and I know a lot of people say that as sort of a hobbies and interests on their resume, but really, for me, there's you feel like a child when you travel and you're not in your comfort zone. Everything feels completely new, and it's experiences that I've had the opportunity, the chance to get that I'm hoping a lot of other people can have. And I think the travel industry is going through such a huge shift, not just from a technology perspective, but also just a generational shift where owners and property managers are now younger. Mm-hmm. Guests are even younger, and they have different expectations. And I think, this is something we've talked a few times, Will, on Clubhouse and things like that. But if you can empower property managers to automate and personalize the predictable, they can focus on working on their business, not in their business.
For sure.
And when I hear property managers still dealing with, getting the keys to the owner, to the guests, or answering messages like Wi-Fi passwords and answering messages at 2 a.m. that are just so frustrating. There's something to be done so that they can focus on creating a memorable experience, or I think, if I'm not mistaken, as you say, creating a destination.
No, dude, it's so true. It's so true, because of the, people get mad at me when I say, when our property management company, we're not messaging guests all the time. I rarely get a message from a guest, rarely. And if we do, it's they just didn't read the instructions before. All you have to do is kind of reiterate it in a smaller version, and you're pretty much good to go. The rest of the time, it's usually, hey, we love the easy check-in. where's your favorite this, where's your favorite that, not the stuff that's on your guidebook or listed in the house, but like where is like the secret spots for this. Those are fun. Those are great messages to get.
Yeah.
And I love that you just like, I could tell that you like to travel. It's not like a resume thing, because I've seen your Instagram, and you're not like a traveler as in like posting suitcases and your feet up at the airport. You're like posting the culture and the experience while you're there. It's really cool. And I love that you capture that, because it does kind of give everybody the, I guess, perspective of, okay, like this is a lot more fun. A lot of people, I think, look at travel now, or have looked at travel before COVID, as more of a chore. It's like, to pack the damn suitcase again and whatever it may be. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see that you get to fully experience it like a child again, which is really fun. But
new countries, new cultures, so many new things to explore. Like, I think we're pretty isolated, and COVID has definitely, enhanced that a bit more when it comes to, just being at home all the time. So having that sense of curiosity is always triggered by traveling.
For sure. No, I love it. And, not to mention Clubhouse again, but I do feel like in the midst of it, Clubhouse did kind of feel me like get me to experience that I was kind of out of my house, I guess. It was more of like, hey, I'm talking to people in Australia, our friend Julie. Like, it was just like, okay, we're not just stuck here in our house by ourselves. It's like there's other people in the world that are with us in a weird way, which is super unnormal, because our parents and family members and relatives, like even my sister, who's only 10 years older than me, she's like, what? You're talking to people in Australia and UK and Ireland? And it's like, all the time. It's completely different. But I have a question for you too, going into kind of your experience. So with you creating Enso Connect, you discovering with all these other property managers around the world, do you feel maybe like you not being an operator, you not being in hospitality before this whole business and Enso Connect and the creation of it, do you feel like it's been a hindrance, or do you feel like it's been actually a benefactor to you in order for you to serve the industry in a better way with Enso and what you guys are doing?
Well, I think, for that piece, we've definitely brought on people on our team to bring that operational experience into Enso Connect. And that's definitely been a big push. On my end, again, we're focused on the guest experience. We sell obviously to property managers and hosts and things like that, but we're focused on the guest experience. And this isn't just based on what I would ideally like as a guest experience. This is interviewing hundreds, if not thousands, of guests who have used short-term rental platform and are hesitant between using Expedia because they think there's more hotels and they want to go that way, or Airbnb, and understanding what that shift is as well in the new generation of people traveling. But to complement that, we're bringing on advisors and team members that do have that operational experience as property managers to better understand some of the smaller complex problems. And it's all about teamwork. Like, it's not just me. It's everyone on our team that gets this done and that builds the software, connects with property managers, learns about the industry. I guess I'm just the one sometimes, calling a shot here and there if there's a debate on a certain question.
Right. No, I love that. It's a good answer. And the guest experience part, I think, this is where, and you'll probably see this if do you know Matthew Loney, CEO of Explory?
It's funny you say that, because I was just listening to his podcast on your thing yesterday, just to like get a vibe, a bit more of a last minute vibe about it. But these are the kind of tools and softwares and connections that are definitely up our alley.
Right.
It's the Alexa thing, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, but their concept, which I've really enjoyed like diving into, because I think so often in the industry we get so focused on guest experience within hospitality, but there's other industries that focus on guest experience and memories and being thoughtful and just taking care of their customers, like really just being like, Mr. and Mrs. Smith have been with us for 10 years and I know it's their anniversary coming up. I'm just going to send them a present. We have a $50 budget per customer that we're allowed to spend or whatever. And just those moments where you're instantly able to act on something like that. Not having to be like, hey, this is what we have to do, but it's just kind of just a natural human thought, right? That
100%.
Like, across throughout other industries, we don't need to be in hospitality to provide experiences and memories and creating a quote unquote destination here. So it's really remarkable that, anyone from any industry can come into this space and think of it as a traveler, think of it from other friends and families' experiences that they've had with travel and short-term rentals or hotels or anything like that. So I like that you guys really do focus on that part, because I think it's going to be the big differentiator, especially with, combining tech and people and all the other things you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think, one of the reasons why we're so focused on that piece is because the data's out there. The information about everyone and everything is out there. It's just not, it's being hidden from the property managers, or it's not being utilized in a way that's, appropriate. Not appropriate would be the wrong word, but it's not being used well enough for property managers. Yeah. I think, 4 or 5 years ago, the problem that people were solving was calendar synchronization, aka listing management, property management at its fundamental base. Yeah, we've solved that. Like there are channel managers and property management softwares out there that do a phenomenal job at synchronizing calendars, updating reservations, dealing with sort of the more operational complexities of managing a property. Yeah. Now it's time to personalize that experience. It's no longer just to automate it and just create triggers to have a basic package. It's personalizing it. And I think the only reason hotels have been so good at doing that is because they've hired people. Yeah. The only reason they haven't been good at reducing their costs with that is because they can't innovate as fast as this industry. 100%. So let's learn from the hotel industry and apply our entrepreneurial and innovative techniques that we clearly have. I mean, after all, a hotel owner is not as much of an entrepreneur as a vacation rental manager. So that's where I kind of see this industry growing way faster in the next couple of years.
For sure. And I was actually just going over a study that was done in the industry, and vacation rental managers, their number 2 things for growth were inventory and rate increases, but yet none of them answered that they're going to do in-stay experiences, upsells, experiential packages, whatever that may be. And man, dude, I was thinking, back before COVID 2020, if you didn't have dynamic pricing, you were leaving money on the table, right? Yeah. But now everyone's using dynamic pricing, whether it's Wheelhouse or Price Labs or whatever. Everyone's doing it. It's oh, you don't have a dynamic pricing software? Weird. But now I'm just thinking, man, if you're not doing upsell experiences, and this is something granted, we're not doing it 100% right now, but that's our roadmap, and we're figuring out, okay, we perfected the pre-stay, the post-stay, not perfected, obviously, but we get nothing but 5 stars. So it's how can we capture the money, the extra revenue, other than increasing rate and growing inventory that's already in our property? We're literally letting money walk out the door by not focusing on experiential packages, upsells. Granted, we do a lot of stuff complimentary because we just want, guests say they're here for a wedding, or they're here for a anniversary or whatever, stuff like that. We'd love to help and to have fun, but there's so many opportunities for managers to get into that. And so I guess for you with Enso Connect, are you guys going to be, explain the software and the products that you guys offer to property managers in order to capture stuff like that? I've said this on Slick Talk many times before, and as time goes on, it becomes more and more true. Operators have been so used to multiple logins, different dashboards, and overall segregated data points for their hospitality brand. I'm proud to say this is no longer going to be the case for the industry. As a podcast partner, Journey MOS is made for operators by operators. One dashboard, one solution to keep your business in shape and ahead of the competition. If you think this is too good to be true, then you need to go to journey.com, that is JURNY.com, to learn how Journey MOS can get you ahead of the big players in your market. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah, 100%. So we focus on 3 core verticals. The first one is communication, and obviously that's our bread and butter just because computational linguistics and all that stuff. And our goal behind it is, so it's essentially a unified inbox, and whether you use ours or the PMS does not matter. And our AI runs in the background and starts automating a lot of communication for you. So it's not just scheduled messages, it's AI driven. We use GTP2, hopefully moving to GTP3 soon enough. And this allows,
I was just listening to a podcast about that stuff. And so I'm we'll have to have another chat afterwards.
It's fascinating. I mean, I have a friend who just started a company for updating the copy of your listings using GTP3. Now it's still a beta, et cetera. He's kind of shot, but this is insane. It means being able to update every 2 days the copy of your listing just so that you rank higher on the SEOs or the rankings of the short-term rental OTAs. There's tons of solutions you can build with this. Wow. And so we use that, and then we plug in our own custom sentiment analyzer to it. and we get the context and the sentiment of the conversation. So we don't only just automate a lot of conversations for you, but we actually start categorizing the guests for you. And this is a huge part for the second vertical. So the first one was communication. Second one is an experience marketplace. Now, these can be services, upsells, or experiences, and can range from pretty much anything you can think of. I mean, the way we're currently approaching our beta is we go to a property manager and we're like, what is the ideal guest experience for you? What do you want to design from step 1 to step 10 or 11 or whatever? And we'll just plug all of that in the communication system for you. And then the final piece, which was launched fairly recently, which I'm fairly excited about, is the remarketing tool, aka a CRM for the short-term rental industry. And I want to say it's one of the first for the short-term rental specific industry. There are hotel CRMs and so on. I want to say we're one of the first really focused CRMs with that regards, because we allow users to text, email, WhatsApp, Airbnb message, eventually live chat, Instagram DM, and Facebook, all through a single unified inbox, not just from check-in to checkout, but from pre-inquiry all the way to remarketing and closing the loop. And if you collect that data through the sentiment and context, and I have a few examples of property managers who did a manual exercise and realized most of their bookings were for vacation or for business trips or for, what was the Bourbon Sherpa,
the whiskey trails or whatever.
Exactly.
The Bourbon Trail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bourbon Trail. And then from there, you just kind of learn who your target audience is, and you start focusing your property management business to be the best at one thing. And so we provide those tools to empower property managers to not only personalize the guest experience at every step of the way through, we have one thing which was called out on us a few weeks ago, which I thought was really interesting. You know how you set up checkout messages for, just thanking the guests, and it's based on a time value. Like if the guest checks out, send him a message and be like, thanks for staying.
For sure.
Some people will set up a scheduled message after that being like, hey, by the way, you want to leave a review? That'd be really nice.
Yeah.
The problem is, exactly. Yeah. But the thing is, you're lucky because you've got great guest experience throughout. So you haven't had a bad guest be like, well, screw you, Will. I had a really bad guest experience. I'm going to leave a really shitty review. Yeah. But that can't happen. Yeah, and when that does happen, you're going to turn off that scheduled message. I'm not saying when it will, because I know it won't. But
I've gotten negative reviews on the podcast. I've gotten reviews. We've gotten less.
It happens.
So there are those people out there that just hate the world, and anything that they find, they'll do it. So yeah,
exactly. But if you can predictively see the sentiment of the conversation ahead of sending that message, and make that a condition for sending the message, so that it's no longer just at checkout send a message, but rather if the sentiment of the conversation is going well, and the guest is happy, and it's checkout, and this guy has booked twice, and add all of these different conditions to trigger not only messaging experience, but upsells and other personalized items. You don't want to just tell everyone, hey, rent a scooter and buy this thing and buy that. And they're not, it's not personal. But if you can send them a text message and it's their anniversary and you're like, hey, want to, book this, I don't know, something, honeymoon, whatever. Exactly. And private then chef. Personalize that. Exactly. Then it makes it so ever more beneficial for the guest, and obviously for you as a business, allowing you to sort of drive more bookings, get better reviews, and all of that we know quantifies your business from a revenue perspective. Better reviews means more money.
For sure. That, and I think a lot of people don't understand that the people that survived COVID in the beginning, like with all the crazy shit that was happening with, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in cancellations, owners jumping out and jumping ship and selling properties or just taking them off rental programs, all this other stuff. The people that survived were the ones that focused on other revenue streams rather than nightly rate. I think that's where we get so, like hotels, I remember being a hotel manager and going through revenue meetings every week. And it was just like, okay, like we're beating the comp set, but we're only getting nightly rate. And sometimes the off-season nightly rate was $80. So and I didn't want to go that way. We were a condominium hotel with jetted tubs in every room, a full kitchen. Like I did not want to be at $80 a night, at all. But where can I focus? Okay, if they're paying $80 a night, where else can I capture that attention, that money? And the businesses that did that during COVID, definitely, and we're even doing it pre-COVID. It was already a practice that they had in play. I think we're way ahead of the curve. And so this is the area that a lot of like we need to start really honing into more than just grabbing listings, putting them up, and letting them go on autopilot. I think that's where for profitability, for growth, for longevity
100%.
of the industry. Yeah. It's gonna be.
And you brought it up as well with regards to pricing, right? Everyone has dynamic pricing systems now. Now, granted, it's for short-term rentals, but what that has also meant is that it's increased prices to a point where, honestly, it's almost comparable to a hotel, especially when you look at all the fees, the services, taxes, and all that comes out as a guest. So when I speak to some of my friends and they're like, yeah, Airbnb hotel, like it's really just about the trip more than it is about the price anymore. Mm-hmm. You don't pick an Airbnb because it's cheaper unless you really pick the cheapest Airbnb, and at which point you really don't care about the guest experience. Yeah. You pick a short-term rental property because it's unique, because it has something cool, because it has a nice view, it has a hot tub, or it has a kitchen that you want to cook home cooked meals, whatever it might be.
The ability to have more than two people in the room at once.
Exactly. Although you can always sneak a few more people in the hotel room, I'm sure.
Yeah, but no one likes to be like, we're not 17 anymore. We don't want to be in a cramped hotel room. We want to have a whole spread.
Exactly. Yeah. And so because of that, I think one of the things that we're seeing is, not only the generational shift of travelers where they're getting younger and younger, and that's kind of just obvious. I mean, that's how life works, but also just in terms of the professionalization of this industry, where property managers and vacation rental owners are thinking more like business owners and not just someone who has a place and, wants to make some spare cash. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. By all means, that's why the sharing economy exists. Mm-hmm. But the reason it's being consolidated is because players are realizing that in order to become profitable, in order to grow those margins and, do everything positive financially for the business, it's not just setting the price right. It's not just making sure there's no double bookings. It's also making sure that the guest has a phenomenal stay. Yeah. And when all three of those ingredients are together, then you kill it.
Amen, man.
Then you're killing it.
I love it. Amen. Well, I have a couple founder questions for you that I've been thinking of just during our conversation. And so from start to finish, granted, I know you're not finished. You guys are just getting started. But from the beginning, Give me some insight. What's been the hardest thing that you've faced so far creating Enso Connect? What is it? Getting in front of property managers? Is it building out the solution? Is it maybe even on your own personal entrepreneurship journey? Is it the amount of hours? Because I know you. I've seen your Instagram. You're there early. You're there late, and you're like me in a lot of ways. We're very similar. We're kind of obsessive compulsive where it's like, all right, this is it. This is all I'm focusing on. Have a little burst of fun here and there, and then it's back to work. So I'm kind of curious what's been your biggest overcoming?
There's definitely a few. I mean, the pandemic was one huge one. I mean, at that point, there was no room it didn't feel like there was any room for a new business in this space. And it didn't feel like it was a good time to start a business in the hospitality space. I mean, everyone was saying no. Yeah. Investors were saying no. Customers were saying no. It was super hard to get in touch with that. Everyone was freaking out, which is totally understandable. But I think it was also a huge opportunity. And the grit that we had as a team to just keep pushing forward and figuring out what the next big problem is allowed us to not only survive, but thrive. The hours put into this are definitely long, but you put in what you get. What is it? You get out what you put in. Is that the right saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Something like that. I don't know. I think there's challenges all along. My saying, and I know all my friends, I know if my family listens to this, is going to be like, oh my God, here he says it again. But every problem has a solution. And I just say this every time I'm stuck. As soon as I'm stuck with something, whether it's, getting in touch with a partner, closing a deal with a property manager, or getting an investor to sign off on something or give us more money, whatever it might be, every problem has a solution. And you just got to look at it from different lenses. One of the things, I have the best relationship with my co-founder because we solve everything with logic. As soon as we disagree on something, and we disagree on things, which is great. It's like this sort of a yin and yang balance, if you will, is we just draw a decision tree. What are all the potential outcomes? What happens if we do this? Yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, maybe. And we kind of just draw it all out and then work our way back to the top to figure out what the best decision is. And there have been challenges partnering with certain companies. There have been challenges getting in touch with certain large property management companies that I'd like to work with. But no problem that we can't overcome. We just have to continuously weave our way through, understand the industry, and figure out, as long as we have that North Star, we know what we want to do as part of that North Star.
For sure.
then it's just figuring out the path to get there.
What makes you think where did you learn this? Was it always instilled in you? Was something like when you were, growing up, like, was this how you were raised, or was there a particular moment in your life where you're like, I'm going to shift, or I'm going to be better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have that drive. I'm very curious to know this type of stuff with my guests, because it's very fascinating to see some people be completely in poverty, trying to get out, and then just completely create a new person basically, versus, they were just naturally born to do what they're doing. And, I'm always fascinated by it. So I'm kind of curious for you. Was it a natural? Were you born like this, or do you think there's a moment in life?
I don't know. I think a huge part of it is my education, the chances that I've had, thanks to my family, definitely. I grew up in France. I grew up in New York. I grew up in Toronto, in England. And so already had that sense of travel, but more importantly, adversity as well, to a certain extent. Listen, I think I was taught never to give up, and just to keep pushing forward. I mean, there's times where it's hard. There's times where you just want to give up, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm over this. But you take a break and you rest up, and then you get right back into it the next day. And again, it's me being too laser focused on that North Star. So let's hope we get there. But I wouldn't be able to answer that question, to be honest. I think it's a combination of nature and nurture. It's and definitely the environment of being in this hyper innovative space and seeing people continuously push the needle forward. Yeah. If anything, it motivates me even more. I mean, when I see companies do amazing things, I'm like, why can't I do that? Yeah. Why can't we do that? Why can't we bring this into the short-term rental industry and professionalize it like hotels have? And why couldn't Enso Connect be a leader towards that? So yeah, it's a combination of a bit of both, I would say.
I like that. It's a good answer. It's a good answer, man. It's just something that's very fascinating to me. It's very, it shows a true sense of character for a lot of people. And that's what I really want to, the podcast to focus and capture, is that, it's not just people coming on the show to talk about companies and products and services. Yeah. It's talking about real human shit that matters. I think, learning about a founder's background and how they were, born and raised, and what their overcomings have been, it really shows into the quality of the company, of the product, of the service, whatever it may be. So it's very fascinating for me, and I loved your answer. It's a good answer. My
well scripted. I had it written down right here just in case. I'm joking.
As the podcast intro says, it's completely unscripted. So
yeah, I know.
Shame on you. I was kidding. My final question for you is, what's next for Enso Connect? Where do you guys, with that North Star in play, with you guys constantly trying to innovate and challenge yourselves, what's the, I guess, next chapter? We're getting close to 2022. It's right around the corner. Yeah. Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. What are you guys expecting to do? What are the announcements? Maybe you can't share anything, but where do you see this going? What's the next big leap?
So right now we're working with very specific property managers in kind of a closed beta. We're bringing on property managers, essentially scheduling an hour-long consultation, figuring out what they want to see for the guest, step by step, and building it out. We're collecting a lot of information from these different partnerships, I would say, with property managers, to better understand how we can optimize not only onboarding on our software, but also just all the different features and values, which experiences are usually set up. How can we make that as seamless as possible? How can we make sure that this isn't just another software that you have to add to your tech stack? How can we make sure that this plugs in a way that's smart, seamless, and easy to use? And that's going to be the case for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. 2022 is the year for Enso Connect. And this is, we're integrating with different property management softwares. We're staying quiet. We're doing our thing and making sure that we deliver the best guest experience. 2022, our goal is to make sure that we can onboard any property manager, be PMS agnostic, and work with all of the tools that you already use, whether it's a noise control device like Noise Aware Minute, whether it's the smart locks, Nuki, Schlag, whether you're using an access management software itself like Aperto, or really any different systems and combinations, bringing that into a single play for you to deliver the best guest experience, but working with your property management software, not conflicting whatsoever, syncing all of that information and delivering the best guest experience. I'm going to say that a couple times.
I'm a fan of it. And the fact that you guys have a little bit of AI in there makes it very interesting because I don't think there's many.
That's our secret sauce.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's many in the space that are using AI. And so, it's very, very exciting. Slick Talk is getting into AI in a couple areas. So it's very again, we're going to have this conversation offline. But I always like to give every guest the opportunity to give the audience one stop, one shop, one location, maybe two, maybe three, who knows. Where's the best place that anyone listening to this podcast can be like, I want to either connect with Enso, with Francois, I want to learn more. Where can they go? Where's the best place to send people?
So I'm not going to give my personal meeting link because I know this gets a lot of views and I'm really scared that you guys are just going to blast my meeting link. I did it on Clubhouse once and my whole week was booked. And I was just like, well, there goes that.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to get in touch with us, you can definitely go on our website and click the sign in, sign up, contact us forms. They're kind of everywhere, and reach out to us and we'll get back to you within the same day. And again, right now, our goal is really to learn from property managers. We're not at all about we need to make money, get on our tool, start paying, et cetera. It's really just you come up to us and you say, hey, these are the problems that I face. This is the guest experience that I would like to have, but it's either costing me too much money or I don't know how to build it in a way that's scalable. And we'll tell you what we can do. And we'll share kind of how our software works. We'll give you a bit of a demo. And if we're connected to your property management software, which again, by 2022, we will definitely be, then you can just start using it right away and start not just automating the experience, but personalizing each step of the guest journey.
I love it. All right. Well, you heard it, Slick Talkers. This is the spot to go. Everything will be in the show notes below, so make sure you check them out. And Francois, my man. I was reading your Enso Connect thing on the thing. Francois, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a true honor to chop it up with you live and online. So yeah, I'm just excited to watch your journey, man. It's been great.
Same here. Well, thank you so much for having me. No, it's always a pleasure. And I'm humbled, if anything, to be on this podcast with a lot of legends and titans from the short-term rental industry. So thank you so much, Will.
My pleasure. All right, Slick Talkers, check out everything in the show notes and make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, everything Enso Connect and Francois. So thank you again, and we'll see you all again next week. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoy the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week. In hotels and vacation rentals, the top complaints or issues are noise, garbage, and parking. I may not be able to solve all of your parking and garbage problems, but I could definitely help with your noise problems. And that actually might just help your garbage and parking problems too. So NoiseAware is the only 100% privacy safe noise monitoring solution that property managers and owners can use in order to ensure they avoid parties and other issues happening at their property. You won't get notified when a plate breaks, but if you have a little quiet get-together that kind of gets out of hand, like this, then NoiseAware will give you the peace of mind to ensure that you and your property, and of course, your profits, are protected. So use my code SlickTalk20 to get 20% off of all noise monitoring devices and focus on the other important things that help you run your business. Now, thank you for checking out Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Get back to the episode, and don't forget to check out NoiseAware while you're listening. What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast.